Mics are off. Archiving. Jingle.
Locatora Radio. Locatora Radio. Locatora Radio. Mommies of myth and bullshit. A radiophonic novela. Locatora Radio, hosted by
Mala Munoz
and Diosa Fem.
Hello, welcome back to Locatora Radio, Locamores.
Welcome back. This is Mala.
And this is Diosa.
And we are Las Locatoras of Locatora Radio, coming to you once again, as always, from Radio Espacio at Espacio 1839 in Boyle Heights.
Locatora Radio is a podcast archiving the brilliance and legacies of women and femmes of color.
And as always, you know that you can listen to us, keep up with us, all of our new capítulos on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audio Boom. Make sure that you're liking, you're commenting, you're subscribing, you're sharing. We're also living and loving it at Localandia, which is what we're calling our YouTube channel.
Yes.
Our YouTube, it's youtube.com/Locatora Radio, aka hashtag Localandia, that's what we're calling it. And as always, you know, we love Instagram, so keep up with our adventures on Twitter and especially on IG at Locatora_radio.
Yes, so much to talk about today. So in this month of Locatora Radio, we have been out and about. We've been doing a bunch of gigs, recording a lot.
We've been busy.
Building. It's been really great. So as a recap, we want to thank once again Joanna from the Unapologetically Brown Girl series. For when she was here in LA and she had a pop-up and a Q&A and she asked us to host it, and it was amazing. There were so many people that came out and it was really beautiful to see so many Central Americans.
It was a beautiful event. It really was.
In support of her and like the connection that they feel with Joanna as a Central American. So it was super, super dope, super badass. So shout out. Also, we recorded a capítulo with Kat Lazo, and we also recorded a capítulo with Amy Kichis, East Coast Mamis, the both of them, both Peruanas and Colombianas. And then
I'm from New York.
I'm from New York, right? And then when we recorded our capítulo with Amy, Kat Lazo did the videography, basically.
She was teaching us how to use our new equipment. She really was like, okay, this is where this goes. Right. This is how this works. Thank you, girl.
Thank you so much, Kat and Amy and Joanna.
Good times. We have so many. You know what? This actually ties in, because to the theme of sisterhood.
Yes.
That was touched upon not only at the Unapologetically Brown series, but also like in working with Kat, and then also at the Nuri Martinez event.
Yes. So we were very lucky, very fortunate to be a part of Councilwoman Nuri Martinez's event called In Her Words, and it was hosted at LA City Hall. Yeah. And it was a night of spoken word, music, dance, poetry, and us. So it was super fantastic. We femceed and we were able to, introduce the artist and also engage in dialogue with the folks that were there, the women that were there. Majority of the attendees were women.
Yes.
So we asked them, questions, like we talked amongst ourselves first about like what does sisterhood mean to us, and then asking the audience what it looks like for them. And one of my favorites was there were these two women sitting in the front, and they said that one of them dated the other one's brother, and it didn't work out, so they were best friends and also roommates. Yeah. So they were like, that's what sisterhood has been like for us. So that was one of my favorite ones.
I love that. And you know what? I've heard of that before.
Right.
Like, that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
Or even sometimes
date each other,
yes. or like girlfriend plus the mistress, they end up having a friendship that outlasts the actual anyways. So that was cute. So like sisterhood was a big theme at the In Her Words event at City Hall. Yes. It was a big theme at the Unapologetically Brown event, because that was basically like we talked about the fact that like, and Jessica was there, Joanna, Amy, us as Locatora, like talking about how everything that we've accomplished so far, like every stage we've been on, any like publication or written piece that has been published, any editor that has worked with us, like a job that has been offered, like almost 100% of them have been through a mujer, through a woman of color.
Right. Well, even, when working with Councilwoman Martinez, the reason that we were connected with her is because a listener works in her office. She's a part of her council office. So she reached out to us. So it's also really amazing to see, like, our listeners are everywhere. Like, their careers are, like, in every field.
Yes, truly.
And that makes me super happy to, like, see our listeners, or know that our listeners are out there, like, doing the damn thing, and, like, in so many fields. In
city government, in production companies, different types of media, journalism, everywhere. Our listeners are in law school. They're all over the place.
Nonprofits, teachers.
Bars. Dispensaries.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Whew. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. It's tiring being us. JK.
Well, Mala also taught a self-defense class earlier today before recording.
This is very true. This is very true.
You're a little tired.
In Westlake, and my favorite self-defense classes to teach are always 100% of the time the bilingual classes, the Spanish-speaking classes, because it's always señoras, and this group from the Westlake, like, neighborhood council organized it, and so like a lot of señoras and like women, youth, young girls from the community were there, and so it was a bilingual class, and they just are so funny. They're hilarious, and they, like, really get into it, but then they take, like, cheeseman breaks in between, and it's great. It's a good time. So that was my morning, which I love to do. So and it's not uncommon for me to do a self-defense class before, like, on a Saturday. So yeah. What else did we have going on this month? March was busy.
Well, we had Viva la Mujer, and then you took a little time off. Well, we took last weekend off because you had friends visiting.
Shouts out. Yes. We had a little, so I went to Tufts, right, for undergrad in Massachusetts, in Medford/Somerville, Massachusetts. So we ended up having a little jumbo reunion, a Tufts reunion. I had a friend, Tatiana, hey girl, fly in from Massachusetts. My friend Roy, hey Roy, fly in from Montana. And then our other friend Jose, who lives out in Pasadena. And then Jamila, who's actually from DC, but she's studying at Stanford right now. We all happen to be in the same area. Lainey, who's from Westlake as well. So we all got together. We brunched. We went to Selena Techno Cumbia Night. It was cute. It was a good time. So, yes.
Yeah, that's really good.
It was fun.
Good.
You're like, good for you, girl. Good for you, bitch.
I'm a little, like, low energy today.
She's like, I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, I'm glad one of us is having fun. Jesus.
So, what else? Oh, we kind of have a new little segment.
We have a new little segment, but if you're watching on the YouTube, I wanted to say that Mel and I are wearing the exact same shirt.
Can we show the world?
And it was unplanned.
Can we show the world?
Per usual.
As per usual, this was completely unplanned.
Right.
Like, I was walking across the street. She was, like, getting the equipment out of her car. And we're like...
Of course. Yep. We're wearing the Ni Santas Ni Putas Solo Mujeres shirt.
Solo Mujeres hoes. The pink one.
Yeah, which is cute. I like the pink.
It's just all relevant for today.
Right.
Just everything. I just want you to know that everything is relevant.
Everything is properly placed where it's supposed to go.
Everything is where it belongs.
Yeah. So listen closely.
Pay attention. We won't say any more.
Alrighty.
Anywho.
So Ma had this great idea of talking about weird things white women did this week.
So many weird things.
Now I'm going to have to, like, keep tabs of, like, the things that I hear and I experience. But I know you have something to share, so share with us.
Yes, so this week on Weird Things White Women Did This Week. So the first thing that happened, I was at Perch with Roy and Tatiana, right? Because I love friends from out of town. I always take them to the Perch.
Yeah.
Have to,
it's
got to.
It's an LA thing, yeah.
It's an LA thing, gotta do it. So take them to Perch, and it was like a Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, whatever, so it was very crowded, no seating areas. So there were these, like, white women there in a group, and I could tell that they're, like, white feminists who, like, spend a lot of time on the internet. Like, they're, you know, we spend a lot of time on the internet. I know who they are without knowing who they are. You know? But anyway, so they have their little corner. They're taking pictures. I think that we took a picture for them. And then one of them, and it was me, Roy, Tatiana. I don't remember if my sister was there or not. I don't think she was. But one of the ladies you know how there's those little step stools that can kind of double as seats?
Right.
So she was like, oh, we're not using this. Like, you guys can go ahead and use this, like, if you want to sit on this. And I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. And then she looked at me and Tatiana, and she goes, yeah, you know, when I see a woman of color standing, I say to myself, here, rest. Oh, you need to rest. Here, have a seat, rest.
Thank you? Question mark.
That was my exact response. I was like, do I say thank you?
Yeah, thank you.
And it was hilarious. So we all sit down, and I was like, Roy. And Roy is a white man. Roy is a white man. Mm-hmm. He's a white male from Maryland, from Baltimore, Maryland. Met him in college. Good friend of mine. Love Roy. Anyway, so I was like, Roy, did you hear that? And he goes, I thought that I heard it, but I didn't want, he was like, I thought it was something else. He's like, I didn't want to think it was what it was. Tatiana was like, no, I heard it. That's what she said. I heard that shit. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
So then the other weird thing that a white woman did this week was today, right before we started recording, I was in here just setting up. And this blonde lady came in, and I don't know if she's going to like search the podcast and listen to this and be offended later. I don't know. But she came in and she started talking to me in like very aggressive Spanish, but it sounded to me super like it was Argentinian or like Chilean, because you know how they do the all that stuff. Right, like, I don't know how, I can't emulate it, but you know what I'm saying. And she was being really aggressive in her delivery. And my Spanish is so shitty. Like, I'm the il pocha. Like, I'm speaking in Spanglish, like, unabashedly. Like, I don't speak good Spanish. I just don't. But I will speak it. I'll try. I'll communicate.
Right.
And so I'm talking to her in my Spanish. And so after a while, she realized, like, this bitch speaks English. Just, you know what I mean? And so she starts speaking. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, she's going to maybe be, like, a Chilean lady. And, like, she's going to speak English in an accent. Or I don't know. But she was a total Becky. Like, a complete Becky. Like, a study abroad, you know what I mean? Lord. She was like an American white lady. Yeah. And it was very bizarre. And I could see the change in her face where she was like, oh, I'm embarrassed now. You know what I mean? Good. So those were weird things white women did this week.
Interesting.
Oh, I'm exhausted. From that delivery.
Yeah. I mean, I've had like, when I've been here by myself and I get here setting up, like I've had men come in here like really aggressive, like, listen to my music.
Yes.
Come to my show. Pictures. Can I put you on the list? Or like stuff like that. And I'm like, what? Leave me alone. And then they'll ask what we do. And I'm like, we're a podcast and we talk about feminism. And that usually will make them go away.
There was one guy who was in here and he was asking, and I said, oh, we talk about feminism. And he goes, Chicana feminism? Like with an expectation that that's the right type to talk about. And I was just like, you know, amongst other things. Absolutely. What's it to you?
Yeah. Interesting.
Anywho. So that's fun.
Yes. That'll be a new segment we introduce here and there.
Anyways, so we're back from our little break, and we're introducing lots of little new segments, right? So the one that we just did was, ways that white women were weird this week. Right. And then we also want to introduce like a new concept and a new segment, which is basically like ways that we were problematic this week, or ways that we were problematic this month, or whatever. You know, for like the sake of having an ongoing conversation with ourselves, ongoing conversation with our listeners about like, you know, like always being self-reflective and being self-aware and recognizing where we're stepping on other people's toes, or where
hurting other people,
where we're not like holding ourselves accountable and not being like the best that we can be in those ways. So here's a way that we were problematic.
So
we're nervous. Cannot lie. Nervous. But it's not about us. It's not about that. But it is about us. But yeah. Right.
So we were problematic in multiple ways, and I want to say, for full transparency, what happened, like the timeline of the events, right? So we worked with a photographer recently, and I want to say that she will be renamed. We're not gonna say her name or her IG handle right now. We don't have her consent.
And we don't share, if you've noticed, not on our Instagram, not on our recordings, like we don't share like names or handles of like any listeners or community members, like as far as a call out sense. We just don't do it. It's just not something that we practice.
However, there is a listener or an Instagram follower, and she did consent for us to use her name, and her name is Malaka, and her IG handle is AfraFem, A-F-R-A Fem. And she reached out to us because a photographer that we recently worked with, down in their timeline has a photo, and she's wearing individual braids, which we know is a hairstyle originated by and for Black women. So the the listener, Malaka, she DM'd us and basically said, like, I saw this, I tried engaging in a conversation with her, and she blocked me. And it was really hurtful. You know, can y'all talk to this person, because you've obviously worked with her. She's obviously a member of your community. So I think that, you know, I would like y'all to talk to her. And we were completely open. We had not seen that picture before, to be completely honest. But we immediately looked for it. And our immediate thought to rectify the situation was to invite Malaka on the show to, you know, discuss her work, discuss, you know, appropriation of hair, cultural appropriation in general, especially by non-Black Latinos of Black culture. Right?
Right.
So, and in addition, we said that we would reach out to this person and we would talk to her.
To the photographer.
And then we would talk to her individually, right? We fucked up in the sense that we were defensive. We tried to,
well, because what we said was that, like, which is true, but it wasn't necessary information in the context of like the conversation. But what we said in our first communication with her, like our response to her DM, was that, and by the way, like seeing the DM, we were like, oh, like, well, we don't respond to our DMs really, but this seems like a really important one that we should respond to. So we chose to like actually like engage and like respond to it. And so we said, like, you know, like we don't do extensive like checks about on like our collaborators and that people who collaborate with us, like as far as like artistically, if we see that there's sort of like, well, this, you know, if we see that they're sort of in the community and they're around and they're involved, like, we're comfortable working with, like, we work with people all the time. Like, people reach out to us, like, in different ways, like, to record on the podcast or to do a project or to do an event. And we will quite often say yes, because we give people really the benefit of the doubt, and we are open to working with new people who are around. So
especially when they're associated with a group, with an organization that we've worked with or we respect or that we really care about.
Yeah, so Malaka basically explained to us that the communication was problematic in the following ways, right? That like we were essentially like attempting to distance ourselves from this particular photographer, like to not claim responsibility or not to act on it, and then like assuming that like Malaka wanted like a call out or like a public like whatever, which she didn't ask for, right? But again, we want to put out there, like, we have been talking about ourselves here in our space, like call outs and online call out culture for a minute now, especially in light of like our last episode with Belladonna, which that was the entire focus of it, and sort of like our informal like method of dealing with that has always been like, we just don't do it, but we haven't made that like a formal public, like solidified, like known piece of how we you know interact with that with Instagram.
So we made the assumption that that is basically what she was after, even though she never, or not that we made the assumption, but we like stated like this is our boundary. However, she never implied that. So I think it was problematic in that way, that was one of our first reactions, or not reactions but replies. I also wanted to be clear, like, we do not condone appropriation of Black culture,
of Black hairstyles,
of Black women's hair. Like, that is never okay. I want that to be clear, and I regret that that was not one of the first things that we said. Like, I'm sorry that this person treated you this way. I'm sorry that it was harmful to you for this reason, and like, this is not okay. How can we help? And that was the approach that we should have taken. And that is where we fucked up. After the initial Instagram DMs, Malaka wanted to move over to email. So we gave her our email, She emailed us a few days later, and we saw the email, and we made a mental note, like, to each other, you know, like, let's reply to this, you know, when we have some time, right?
When we sit down and respond to our emails
and actually reply. We let a little over 2 weeks go by.
Yeah.
So at this point, it appears that we're ignoring her. It appears that because she was not happy with our response because it was problematic, right? Like, that we were just gonna, like, kind of wipe our hands clean and walk away. Like, all right, this isn't really our problem anyway. That was never the case for us, but that was the impact of our actions. And that's something that's really important to talk about when we're talking about allyship, is that we can have really good intentions, but when you're not actually acting on them, the impact can be really harmful and it can be really negative.
No, of course.
Yes.
Like, you have to act. You have to actually put out effort. And so our issue is, like, multifaceted.
Yes.
It's, like, trifold, if you will. So, like, we have to be better about, like, making ourselves as available as possible within our our limits.
Well,
to, like, respond when there are sort of community level issues that have to do with the podcast.
Yes.
Because let's be very clear, like, in our Los Angeles community, we are, like we said before, like, we are very available to a lot of people all the time.
Yes.
Like, out here in these streets, and, like, again, like, I'm available 24/7. You know what I mean? Like, work-wise, like, we are always, like, responding and, like, putting out fires and handling traumas and different things, because we are actual community members with responsibilities and families and all of these things. Now, as far as the podcast and our podcast community and our online community and people that we don't, you know, convene with every day in real life, and that we don't have, they're not coworkers, they're not neighbors, they're not family members, but they're still a part of a community. And I think we have to sort of, like, figure out how to better center this podcast world and this podcast community, that very real people and their very real, like, histories and, you know, feelings and things are a part of. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Well, I mean, and I think that because of what this conversation is about, right? Because what Malaka reached out to us about, how we should have handled the conversation with the photographer, right?
Yeah.
That should have been top priority for us. Obviously not something that we could do, like, at the snap of a finger, but we should have scheduled a time, or we should, and for transparency purposes, we should have let Malaka know, like, we're really swamped right now. We've read this email. We will get back to you within a week. Yeah. We'll get back to you on this date. Like, know that we are going to talk to this person. So by us not being transparent, it seemed like we were ignoring her, which was the last thing that we ever wanted to do. So then, what happened after?
Well, so then we got a number of, you personally got a number of DMs and on your personal contacts. And then we, as a podcast on the Locatora Gmail, got a number of emails from different, like, community members and, like, especially listeners, and I would say, like, friends of Malaka and also friends of yours, like, personal friends.
Right. Well, in my experience, the femme community is there's a lot of online activity, right? There's, like, a group page for, like, femmes of color in LA. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of communicating happening, you know. So I feel like that's what happened in this case, which I'm also, like, super proud of in a way, because of, like, the way that community mobilized for one person.
Yes.
You know, and, like, to hold us accountable.
Yes.
For our actions and our inactions. You know what I mean? And that really is what community is about, that we hold each other accountable. Right.
Yeah. So basically, they were basically letting us know that they were amplifying, like, Malaka's communications with us so that we would prioritize responding. And so, like, by the time that most of those emails had gotten into us, we had already responded to Malaka and, like, sent our response to her. And so we let everybody know, like, we've responded. We've reached out to the photographer, which, again, from the beginning was always our stated goal and intention and plan. And we did, and we have multiple times. And we haven't heard back, and we haven't heard a response back, but we've invited, like, conversation via text, via phone call, in person. the podcast is always an open forum, like for anybody and everybody to come on and talk within reason. And so, you know, like we still love this person and we still like want to have conversations with this person. And like we have no desire to like vilify or like burn bridges or anything like that. Like that's not my goal. So yes.
Right. And, you know, if she's listening, this photographer is listening, you know, I hope that you check in with us. I hope that you give us a call.
Give us a call.
It's these kinds of, you know, when you're basically checked, right? You're being checked by multiple people. Like it can feel personal, or it could feel like you're being, like you're being called out. I mean, essentially, like, you know, but know that it's like, it's a much larger conversation, right? About like anti-Blackness in the Latinx community, right? Like non-Black Latinos appropriating Black culture. Like it's, there's a one specific person that did this, but it also speaks to a larger issue in our community.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
So it's like
systemic issue.
Exactly.
Ongoing.
So, you know, if you're listening, you know, I hope that you check in with us, talk to us, and you know, so we can unpack this together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So again, if you would like to ask a question, especially a question that you would like to be answered or has a chance of being answered on the podcast itself, please hit the Curious Cat. If you have anything related to like collaborating, working together, concerns, like you want to hold us accountable for something or point out an issue, the recommendation is to send us an email, locatoraradio@gmail.com. We cannot work according to any specific person's timeline, but let us know if it's like, you know, time sensitive, and we can, you know, do our best to try and respond, but don't expect anything shorter than a 2-week response. Right. And generally speaking.
And I think that it would be case by case, right? It's a case by case basis. Like in this instance.
Now, after having had this experience, yes, we're developing more of like, okay, we have to discern and make time.
Yeah, and it's this has really been a learning lesson for us.
Oh yeah.
For so many reasons, like we've already stated, and I would like to reiterate an apology to Malaka for, you know, not prioritizing the conversation that she was really trying to have with us, and also want to respect all the emotional labor that she has done in engaging with the photographer, in engaging with us, in corresponding with us. And, you know, we have extended an invitation for her to come onto the show. So she actually will be on the show April 28th, which is a Saturday.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about her work. I know she does dope-ass stuff in the community. She's in the Bay, so she does like Bay Area things, but she's also like out here in LA from time to time. So her Instagram is at Afrafemme, AFRAFEMME. So give her a follow. She does really great work, and yeah, we're really excited to have her on in the future.
Yeah, and thank you for you know, coming on the show and for checking us and for engaging in the conversation. And we look forward to working with you and to meeting you, and yeah, and continuing the talk.
Right. And you know, one thing that Malaka did say in one of the follow-up emails that we had is that, you know, she wants us as Locatora Radio to be, you know, vulnerable in this process of accountability for the hurt that we've caused and the hurt that and what we've condoned, right? And that is what we're trying to do by discussing this.
The goal.
And yeah, and I think it's also a testament as to like, okay, we do have a larger platform than we sometimes even realize.
Yeah, you know? It's a little bit scary, to be honest with you.
Well, I think for me personally, like, I see our platform and I see it growing, but then I see it on the scale of like our friends. Like, let's say Jessica, for example. And I'm like, oh, we're a baby platform.
We're still relatively small.
So,
yes.
But then these things happen, and I'm like, oh no, okay, we do have some type of responsibility as a platform.
It's that balance, right? Because it's that balance between just being very like realistic. Like realistically, these are the numbers that we're dealing with. This is the number of people. These are the number of messages. This is the number of times that we're being reached out to or we're being recognized. And then there's the, you know, like be like don't get a big head.
Oh yeah.
And don't think too much of yourself.
Exactly.
So when we say like, look, like we're really not, we don't have that kind of power, we don't have that kind of reach. It's true on the one hand when our accounts are still in the negative every single month. You know, like how much power do I have when my account is in the negative every month? You know what I mean?
No, I get you.
There's that. But like you're saying,
it's
learning, but also recognizing, well, no, like, yes, the platform is the platform, the reach is the reach. It is there. But what is the extent? That's something different.
What do you mean?
The extent, the reach is there, but what's the extent of the reach?
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know?
Right. Well, I mean, like we said,
we're learning that. We're figuring that out.
A learning process, a journey. I mean, the podcast in general, right? But this in particular has been a learning experience as for like accountability and transparency and like how we can be better allies to Black femmes.
Yes.
Because, you know, that is women of color and Black women and femmes are who we center in this podcast. So, you know, again, moving forward, like we want to actively be better allies to Black women and Black femmes.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
And for the patience and for the working with us.
Yes.
Whew. Yes.
All right.
Believe it or not, like we wanted to make sure that we like handled the whole situation like appropriately and like with everyone's best intentions in mind.
Right.
Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Believe it or not.
Well.
Anyways.
Yeah.
We can only make our intentions. We can only state our intentions. You know, like we can only lay them. This is what they are.
Right. Well, I mean, and also now we know how to handle, like, if this were to occur again in some ways, right?
In some capacity.
In some capacity, we know how to handle this, like a listener contacting us about something very important, especially as important as anti-Blackness, right?
Yes.
By someone we've worked with.
Yes.
Like that, we know how to handle this now, and you know, again, the learning curve came at the expense of someone, which is like what we feel really bad about and we apologize for. I hope, like really, really, really hope that the photographer